Alright guys, so we're here. We're going to cover this assignment. This was actually an in-class assignment, but some students didn't get it finished, so I'm going to go ahead and go over it. Now in class, the assignment was all of it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the evens, may talk a little bit about the odds, but I'm just going to go through the evens real quick. So the first part, the 1 through 12, your directions were to simplify the expression. So looking at number 1, I'm not going to go all the way through it, but I know that I need to be able to combine like terms. Now, when I'm talking simplifying expressions, there's two things that we need to look for. One is, do I need to distribute? And two is combine like terms. So number 1, there's no distributing, no parentheses. So I can see that -5 and 8, those are going to combine to be able to get my expression. Now moving over to number 2, I'm going to look at this one. There's no parentheses, so no distributing. But now I need to combine like terms. 2x, all by itself, there's no other x's, so that's just going to be part of my expression. 2 and 6, they are like terms, so they will combine, and that gives me 8. Number 3, looking at number 3, there is no distributing, but I'll look for like terms. 7n and n, those are like terms, so that'll help you out with finishing number 3. Number 4, look to see if I have to distribute. No, I don't. So I'm going to go through combining like terms. I see a 5x and a 4x. Those go together, so I'm going to combine them. 5x plus 4x gives me 9x. Then I have 7 and I have 5. Those are going to combine together, give me 12. Okay? Number 5, you're going to do that one on your own. Number 6, there's no distributing, but I'm going to combine like terms. Okay? So I have a -r, I have a -7r. Those are going to combine together and give me a -8r. Because there's really a 1 right here with this r. That makes it -1r plus -7r gives me -8r. Then I have a 7 and I have a -2. When I combine those together, I get a +5. Moving on down to number 8. Number 8, do I have to distribute? Yes, I do, because I see right here I have these parentheses. Those parentheses automatically mean that I have to distribute. Okay, so I'm going to take that off so it doesn't get in our way. But that means I do have to distribute. So I'm going to go 2 times -9n and then 2 times 6. 2 times -9n gives me -18n. 2 times 6 gives me 12. So that gives me a +12. Now, second part. Do I have to combine like terms? No, I can't combine an n and then a constant. Those have to stay separate. Then moving on to number 10. Do I have to distribute? Yes, I do. So 8 times 10v, 8 times 10. So looking at that, 8 times 10v, it's going to be 80v. 8 times 10, it's going to give me 80. Okay, again, I can't combine when I have a variable and then a constant without a variable. Those have to stay separate. Number 12, come in here. I see some parentheses, so I have to take care of those. I've got to distribute. 6 times v, 6 times 3. So when I do that, that's going to give me 6v plus 6 times 3 is 18. Okay, then I'm going to bring down that 6v. Then I'm going to look for my like terms. Okay, this time I can do some combining. I have a 6v and a 6v. Those can go together. And so when I do that, 6v plus 6v gives me 12v. And then I'm going to have plus 18. And so that finishes it up. Okay, so those, I hope, will get some good examples to be able to help you out through those even numbers. All right, so let's look at this bottom part. Our directions say to solve each equations. Now, each of these equations are a simple, just one-step equation. So our goal when we solve equations is we want to isolate the variable. We want to get the variable all by itself. Now, these are some pretty simple equations. Next week, we'll be going into some two-step and multi-step equations. So if you're still struggling with these after you practice, you need to go ahead and make sure you're coming in and asking for some help to get this clarified before we go on. Looking at these. So we'll talk about some of these as we go through. So we want to get the variable by itself. So when I look at number 13, n is my variable. Right now that n is being divided by 11. I need to get rid of that 11, so I'm going to do the opposite. The opposite of divide is multiply. So the opposite of divide by 11 is multiply by 11. If I do that on the left side, I have to do it on the right side to keep them even. And so when I go through that process, then I'll be able to figure out what n equals. I'm going to make sure to finish up on the even side, but I'll talk about the left side a little bit as we go through. Number 14, r is my variable. I want to get it by itself. I have a plus 15 here that I need to move away to get r by itself. So the opposite of plus 15 is minus 15. If I'm minus 15 on this side, I have to do minus 15 on this side. In equations, we want to do the same thing on both sides to keep it equal. Otherwise, it gets out of balance. So this ends up zeroing out. Now I have r equals 28 minus 15 is going to be 13. So r equals 13. Now I can even check it. I can take that r, that 13, put it right back in up here, and I can see 15 plus 13 equals 28, and know that I'm correct. Now, going on down, number 15, x minus 2 equals 6. Got to get that x by itself, so I've got to do the opposite. The opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. So plus 2 on both sides, and that'll help you out to be able to figure out what x equals. 16, we're dividing again. The opposite of divide by 19 is times 19. If I times by 19 here, I have to times by 19 here. Okay? Those, I know that they're just going to end up equaling 1, so I got 1x. So now I have x equals negative 10 times 19. A negative times a positive is going to give me a negative. So that's going to be negative 190. Okay? I can also go back and check it. If I think about it, I put this negative 190 right here and see what's negative 190 divided by 19. Oh yeah, that equals negative 10. Okay, moving on. Number 17. Okay, this is just like the addition we did up in 14, so I'm going to leave that one alone. So let's go on, and you can do that one on your own. Number 18, let's look at it. I have a 20 times a. Any time that we have a number right beside the variable, that means multiply. So 20 times a, the opposite of that is to divide. So I'm going to divide by 20. I'm going to divide by 20. I have to do the same thing on both sides. When I do 20 divided by 20, that gives me 1. So I have 1a, so I'm going to leave my a equals negative 400 divided by 20. That's going to give me negative 20. Okay? So I can plug that back in and I can check it. If I put in a negative 20 for that a, I know that 20 times negative 20 is going to give me negative 400. Now, looking at number 19, okay, we're still multiplying, so we've got to do the opposite. The thing to be careful here, though, is that it's negative 4 times x. So to get the x by itself, I have to divide by negative 4 on both sides. Don't forget your negative, and you'll be able to finish that one up. Number 20. Oh, this one's going to be pretty easy for us, I think. We have negative 1, or x minus 1, so we got to do the opposite. Plus 1, plus 1. Okay? Negative 1 plus 1, they zero out. That leaves me with x equals 6 plus 1 is 7. Now, looking at 21, you're going to do that one on your own. 22. Looking at 22, we're going to divide. We have 13 times b. We do the opposite. We divide by 13, divide by 13. 13 divided by 13 is 1, so I have 1b equals 169 divided by 13. That's going to be a positive 13. And that's going to finish up those problems on through 22. Okay, real quick, let's look at this last one. Looking at 23, you're going to do this one on your own, but we have negative 5 plus x equals negative 22. You have to get the negative 5 to go away to get x by itself. The opposite of negative 5 is a plus 5. So this is going to get you set up to be able to finish that problem. Number 24, 19 plus r equals 8. We've got to get r by itself. The opposite of plus 19 is minus 19. So I have to subtract on both sides. So 19 minus 19 is 0. So now I have r equals 8 minus 19. That's going to give me a negative 11. Okay, we got just a few on the back here. Up here, you do have one equation to be able to go ahead and solve, but let's go ahead and look at these word problems to see what we need to do. So, Kurt has 9 more merit badges than Johnny did. Okay, so we have Kurt and we have Johnny. If Kurt has 14 merit badges, write and solve an equation to determine the number of merit badges Johnny has. So, if Kurt has 9 more than Johnny has, so we know that Kurt, he has 14 badges. Okay? Well, I also know that Kurt, he has 9 more than Johnny. Well, if that's 9 more, that's going to mean that I have to plus. So I know that Johnny plus 9 is going to equal what Kurt has. So when I set up my equation, I can see that 14 equals j plus 9. Now the second part is I need to solve that. I need to figure out how many badges Johnny has. So I've got to get that j all by itself. So we've got to go the opposite. The opposite of plus 9 is minus 9. If I minus 9 there, I have to minus 9 there. When I figure that out, that's going to let me know exactly how many badges that Johnny has. Now let's look at the second one. We have 42 students. Okay, gave it to me in words, but I gotta pay attention to that. 42 students arrived at the school dance after it started. In all, 78 students attended. Write and solve an equation to find how many students arrived at the dance before it started. So, at the end of the dance, there were 78 people there. And so, but let's talk about the start. So at the start, there were some students there. I don't know how many students were there. After a while, though, there were 42 more that ended up coming. And at the end, like attended the whole thing, that ended up with 78 students. So I take those things and I can create my equation. So at the start of the dance, the students plus 42 more coming equals 78 total. And so that's going to be my equation. S plus 42 equals 78. So now you got to go ahead and solve that equation. When you figure out what S equals, then you'll know how many students arrived at the dance before it had started.